there, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to try and solve a TV mystery. Why did Good Girls get canceled after its fourth season? Especially since it was so huge on Netflix, it seemed like everyone was binge-watching it. We've got a whole stack of articles here from What's on Netflix, which is a site, you guessed it, all about Netflix news. And let me tell you, there's more to this story than meets the eye. So get ready for fan campaigns, some behind-the-scenes drama, and maybe even a chance that Netflix could have swooped in to save the day.
You know, what's interesting is that the show's success on Netflix, actually, makes the cancellation even more puzzling.
Oh, absolutely. It's not like Good Girls was some niche show that nobody watched. It was a global phenomenon for Netflix, spending weeks in their top 10 lists all over the world, even in the U.S., where it was added to Netflix a year later. Then everywhere else, it still racked up over 24.5 million viewing hours in a single week. To put that into perspective, that's like everyone in like a small country tuning in.
And here's something that a lot of people might not realize. Internationally, Netflix actually marketed Good Girls as a Netflix original. They did something similar with NBC's The Good Place, too. So it's clear that they saw Good Girls as a show with this worldwide appeal that they could really get behind.
So it had this huge international fan base, thanks to Netflix, but things weren't quite as rosy over at NBC, where the show actually aired first. Even though Good Girls was doing pretty well on NBC, there were already these like rumors circulating that it might not be renewed.
Yeah, and when the cancellation was finally announced, it definitely came as a shock to a lot of fans, especially because, unlike some other shows, they canceled. NBC didn't even try to shop around Good Girls to see if any other networks or streaming services might be interested in picking it up.
Hold on, what does it mean to like shop around a show? I feel like I should know this, but
Oh, sure. It's basically like when a network has a show that they don't want to continue, but they think that someone else might. So they offer it to other networks or streaming platforms to see if anyone wants to take over production and keep it going. Like when NBC canceled Manifest, they shopped it around and Netflix ended up rescuing it for another season.
Got it. So Good Girls fans might be thinking, why didn't they do that for our show? And that's where things take a bit of a dramatic turn.
Absolutely. The cancellation wasn't as straightforward as just NBC deciding to pull the plug. There's more to it than that.
Okay, so spill the tea. What really went down?
Well, a report from TV Line revealed that a final 8-episode season was actually in the works. Everything was set. But then contract negotiations with Manny Montana, who played Rio, hit a major snag.
I've heard these whispers about budget issues and even some tension between Christina Hendricks, who played Beth, and Manny Montana. So are we talking on-set drama?
There were definitely reports of some on-set tension, though it's important to remember, sometimes rumors are just that. Rumors, it seems like. There were a number of factors at play here, negotiating contracts and keeping everyone happy, especially when a show has such a big ensemble cast, can be incredibly complex.
It makes you wonder, if things had gone differently during those contract negotiations, could Good Girls have gotten that final season, at least on NBC?
It's a great question, and one that a lot of fans were asking at the time. There's also the question of Netflix's involvement.
Right, because Netflix clearly saw the show's potential. Could they have swooped in and saved the day?
It's not as simple as it seems. A Deadline report indicated that there were discussions about a Netflix-exclusive 5th season. But those discussions were very much tied to budget negotiations and the existing pay structure. For the cast, a lot had to fall into place for it to work.
Wow, so even with a streaming giant like Netflix showing interest, things still weren't a sure thing.
Exactly. Universal TV, the studio behind Good Girls, actually crunched the numbers and looked into producing a full Netflix original season. But ultimately, it just wasn't meant to be.
So we've got NBC deciding not to renew, complicated contract negotiations, and even Netflix exploring the possibility of taking over, but then backing out. Sounds like Good Girls fans had their hearts broken a few times over.
You're not wrong. The cancellation definitely sparked a pretty passionate response from fans.
And that's where we get to the hashtag Save Good Girls campaign, right? It seemed like fans were doing everything they could to get the show back on the air.
Absolutely. People were rallying on social media, using the hashtag Save Good Girls. They even started petitions on change.org, gathering thousands of signatures. It's really a testament to how much the show connected with people and how invested they were in seeing the story continue.
It makes you wonder, do these kinds of fan campaigns ever actually work? Like, have we ever seen a show brought back from the dead purely because of fan pressure?
It's definitely happened before. Fan campaigns can sometimes sway networks or streaming services. especially when there's a lot of buzz and media attention. It's more likely to happen when a show has a dedicated and vocal fan base, like Good Girls did.
I guess it shows the power of social media, too. Like, when fans band together online, they can really make their voices heard.
For sure.
Yeah.
And in the case of Good Girls, even though the campaign didn't ultimately lead to the show's revival, it definitely demonstrated the passion and dedication of the fan base. It's something that the creators in the studio surely took notice of.
It's a bittersweet thing, though, isn't it? On the one hand, it's awesome to see fans coming together to support something they love, but on the other hand, it's like be disappointing when those efforts don't result in the outcome they were hoping for.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that the entertainment industry is a complex business, and sometimes even the most passionate fan campaigns can't overcome the financial and logistical realities of producing a television show.
Okay, so if we take a step back
Yeah.
and look at the big picture here, what is the Good Girls cancellation tell us about the state of television today?
It's a really interesting case study because it highlights a lot of the factors that can influence a show's fate. It's not always just about ratings. There are behind-the-scenes dynamics, financial negotiations, the power of streaming services, and of course, the passionate voices of the fans.
It's like this whole web of interconnected elements, and sometimes it just takes one little snag to unravel the whole thing.
Exactly. And in the case of Good Girls, it seems like there were a few snags along the way that ultimately led to its demise.
What's wild to me is that Netflix was right there, ready to potentially step in, and it still didn't work out. It makes you realize that even with these streaming giants, it's not always a simple matter of throwing money at a problem and making it go away.
You're right. Netflix has disrupted the television landscape in a lot of ways. But they still have to operate within certain constraints, budget limitations, existing contracts, and even just the creative direction of a show all play a role in their decision-making.
So it's not just about the number of subscribers or how many people are binge watching a show. There's a whole other level of complexity at play behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And sometimes, even when a show is popular and has a dedicated fan base, the stars just don't align.
Which is a bummer, because Good Girls really was a unique and entertaining show. It's kind of a shame to see it go out like that.
I agree. It had a lot of potential. And it's always disappointing when a show gets cut short before its time.
This whole deep dive has really made me think about all the shows that might have faced similar fates. Shows that maybe had passionate fan bases and creative teams that were eager to get telling the story, but for whatever reason, the pieces just didn't fall into place.
It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder how many great stories are out there that never got the chance to be fully told.
I know this is a slightly different direction, but thinking about the international appeal of Good Girls, it makes me wonder if there's a growing trend of streaming services using this original branding to appeal to wider audiences.
That's an astute observation. It's definitely a strategy that Netflix has employed successfully, with several shows. And it wouldn't be surprising to see other streaming platforms adopting similar tactics.
I guess it makes sense. With so much content out there these days, they need to find ways to cut through the clutter and grab viewers' attention. And branding a show as a Netflix original or an Amazon original instantly gives it a certain level of prestige and makes it seem more appealing, especially to international audiences who might not be familiar with the show's original network.
Right. It adds a level of legitimacy.
Right.
Especially when dealing with different cultural contexts and language barriers.
So we've talked about the behind-the-scenes drama, the financial hurdles, the power of streaming platforms, and even the impact of international audiences. But ultimately, I think this all boils down to one question. Why should anyone care about the cancellation of Good Girls?
That's a great question to end on. And I think the answer lies in the bigger picture. The Good Girls story is a microcosm of what's happening in the entertainment industry as a whole. We're seeing a shift in power dynamics. With streaming services gaining more and more influence, we're seeing the rise of fan culture and the impact it can have on creative decisions. And we're seeing the increasing globalization of entertainment, with shows finding audiences all over the world. So even though Good Girls is gone, the conversation it started is far from over. It makes you wonder what the future holds for television, for streaming services, and for the fans who are so passionate about the shows they love.
It's almost like Good Girls became this unexpected case study in the evolution of how we consume and even interact with entertainment. Who knew a show about suburban moms turned criminals could spark such a deep dive?
It's often the stories we least expect that end up teaching us the most. In this case, Good Girls has given us a lot to think about.
It really has. And it leaves us with so many questions. What other shows have faced similar behind-the-scenes struggles? How much power do streaming giants really have in shaping the future of television? And most importantly, What does it take to truly save a show in today's fragmented entertainment landscape?
Those are all great questions to ponder. And I think the answers are going to continue to evolve as the industry changes and adapts.
Well, that's our deep dive into the cancellation of Good Girls. It's a story of creative ambition, behind-the-scenes drama, the unpredictable nature of the entertainment industry, and the unwavering dedication of fans.
And even though the show may be over, the conversations it started about the shows we love, the forces that shape them, and the power of fandom are definitely worth continuing.
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Oh.
What are some shows you think deserved a second chance? How have you seen fan campaigns make a difference? Head over to our website or find us on social media, and let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, keep diving deep, and remember, there's always more to uncover.